so stressed out, I'm not motivated. All this money and attention feels so overrated. Every day it's like I wake up just to make a couple dollars, sign some papers, make some records, talk with strangers. Ooh.
What's up, Make Pop Music? It is Austin here from Austin Hall Audio and Visual and Make Pop Music, and today I have another video because it is a Thursday, which means tutorials. So I am back, and today I know that you guys love doing the full production rundowns and seeing kind of what goes into a full pop production and different kind of artist styles or genre styles. So for today's video, we're actually going to be going over how to make kind of a trap pop, blackbear, Post Malone, Weeknd style pop song where it's very urban, very hip hop based, but it's still got kind of a pop top line. It's still got that pop production, that pop sheen. So you've got the elements of hip hop, and then you've got kind of the polish of a pop record, the melody of a pop record, all coming together. And the song that we're using today is actually my song that comes out tomorrow. I'm super happy with it. I'm super excited to be releasing more music. So if you do like the video and you like the song and you want to support, definitely go check it out tomorrow on Spotify, iTunes, Apple Music, Tidal, whatever you use. It'll be on YouTube, whatever floats your boat. But the song will be out tomorrow, May 10th. Also, we wanted to give you guys some free goodies with this one, so if you want to, there is a link in the description. You can just download all of the stems. There is the unmixed stems, there's the mixed stems, so you can kind of see what I'm doing. If you use Cubase, there's actually the Cubase project file if you want to go ahead and open that. And then I also gave away all of the samples and presets for the song. So any Serum presets that I use or made for this, they're going to be downloadable. And then any kind of samples that we used, besides maybe like a couple hi-hat loops, are also going to be in that pack. So definitely go cop that free download because it is absolutely free. You can follow along, you can kind of see what I'm doing in my mixes, and then you can even use them for like a mix practice, a production practice, a remixing practice, etc., etc. So have fun with them, go wild. You just can't release it as an original, but that's pretty much it. So you can download those. But without further ado, let's actually just go ahead and hop into the session, and I'm going to do it a little bit differently today since the song is done. I am just going to kind of go over it as a final piece, but I do want to kind of go track by track, so you'll see me, I'll be kind of unmuting and making tracks visible as we go. That way we're not just staring at a full production the entire time. So let's just hop into it. All right, now that we're actually in the session, let's go ahead and, like I said, I want to start with kind of a blank session and walk you through track by track as I added stuff in terms of just like importance and, you know, creative flow. So the first thing that I did was I had this little piano melody in my head, and it was just the one that you kind of hear throughout the entire song. And it's just this super, super simple little. And all that is that's just a preset on Easy Keys. You've probably seen me use this in a couple of my productions. I love it for just like atmospheric, plucky little piano sounds. And it's just a Dream Machine with this setting called Pogba. And then we've just got the dry pretty high. It's at like 90%. Ambience is super high up just to give us all of that kind of reverb that we're looking for. And that's pretty much it. Then we've got, let's see, no post-processing on it. We've just got a little bit of high EQ. So that was the first thing that I got right there, was that little. And I really, really like the tone of that, but I wanted one more thing kind of added. So I just went ahead and opened up kind of a different sound in Easy Keys and then kind of blended it. So we've got this one secondly. And what that's doing is that's adding a lot of transient pluck to it, because I really wanted to make sure that it didn't really get too atmospheric with this first bell. So then we mix them together and we have something like this. And then at this point, honestly, I was already getting the melody idea. I knew what I wanted to write it about. I've just been a little burnt lately, just making all of the content for the YouTube, the Facebook, all of the, you know, client work that I've been doing. And I've just been honestly a little bit overworked and exhausted. So I was like, let me just take a day and write a song about that. Like, no complaining. I love, you know, the audience. I love the family and how fast everything's growing. But sometimes it just gets to be a little bit overwhelming when you're just working. So I wanted to take a day and just write something about kind of getting caught up in that grind. So that's where I started doing this like little lead vocal. And this lead vocal, actually, you can see that this was just one take. This was just one take. You can tell by the audio numbers. And then this was all just one take. Pretty much the rest of it, like everything was the demo vocal that I had. Just because I tracked the demo kind of like a one take as I was writing it on my phone. And then I went back to retrack it, and I just never really liked anything as good as the actual first take. So I just kept it. And then I'll show you what it sounded like before I did any processing. I'm not going to go too much into how I mix the vocals because I've done that a lot. And if you guys want to see, that could be a whole video by itself. But let's just go over what was actually sang.
I'm so tired, I'm so stressed out, I'm not motivated. All this money and attention feels so overrated. Every day it's like I wake up just to make a couple dollars, sign some papers, make some records, talk with strangers. Ooh, all the
So at this point, I personally like to track a vocal and then get a pretty solid rough mix on it. And my rough mix on my own vocals is almost exactly what it'll be in the final mix. So just virtual mix rack. I'm not going to show you everything. We'll just kind of run through it. I was using the VMR, so I used the 800, the C800, and then I have Pro DS, just DSing into FabFilter Pro Q.
all the glitters isn't gold, I'm losing control.
And I'm loving Pro Q3 because I'm able to do like dynamic controls on this low end right here. And then just compressed it a little bit with a 2A.
Nothing is making
Actually, a lot of it with a 2A. Then I just have this multi-band controlling some of this like 280 that was a little annoying in the mix.
making me whole. All the drama and the stress, my life is a mess. The pressure is crushing my
And then one more de-esser. Then I just sent it to the usual suspects for my my reverbs.
I'm so tired, I'm so stressed out, I'm not motivated. All this money and attention feels so overrated. Every day.
So that's pretty much the song, right? So I knew that I was like, I have the chord progression, I've got the vocal, now it's time to start adding some drums. So I just added this kick and this little snare, and these samples will be in the pack that you're downloading.
I'm so tired, I'm so stressed out, I'm not motivated. All this money and attention feels so overrated. Every day it's like I wake up just to make a couple dollars, sign some papers, make some records, talk with strangers. Ooh.
And you can see that this is 3 different snares. So we've got snare 1, 2, and 3. And in the stems, I think I printed this whole snare track as just one thing, and then it's just one sample, so you'll get the whole, like, you'll get this whole little bunch
So tired, I'm so
as one snare drum. And then you can see that I just added these little like wooden percussive accent hits.
talk with strangers.
And that really helps these drums kind of have a bit more rhythm and movement, because right now it's really simple.
I'm so tired, I'm so stressed out, I'm not motivated. All this money and attention feels so overrated. Every day it's like I wake up just to make a couple dollars, sign some pay.
So it just adds this nice little bit of like, woo, like when it comes up. And I wanted to keep everything super simple. So I really like that snare drum, but I wanted a little bit more depth, so I actually added this one.
Some papers, make some rec. I'm so tired, I'm so stressed out, I'm not motivated. All this money and attention feels so overrated.
And then on both of these snare drums, you'll see that I added Camel Crusher. If you want to compare them in the mixed stems and the unmixed stems, the mixed stems basically just have Camel Crusher on it with these settings, and then the unmixed is just how they came out of the box. So, I mean, it's just kind of adding a little bit of compression and saturation just to help them poke through the mix just a little bit. Here's without.
I'm so tired, I'm so stressed out, I'm not motivated. All this money and attention feels so overrated. Every day it's like I wake up just to make a cup.
So it just adds a nice little transient kind of pop to it once everything comes in. And that drum basically carries through the whole song, actually. I don't change the drum rhythm, and I don't change the actual chord progression, because I end up changing the vocal melody quite a bit throughout the song. So you'll see that the actual beat is super repetitive, and it was really easy to make. It really came down to like writing a top line that kind of flowed by itself and didn't really need a whole lot of extra production behind it to carry it. So we've got the drums, we've got the synths, we've got the leads. The next thing was this main 808. And of course, we're just using Serum. And this is in the actual preset pack that you can download. I also just sent out a bunch of free 808s for May for our pop box. So if you're not subscribed, go subscribe to that, because we sent 10 Serum presets and then like 200 one-shot wave samples. But this is what it sounds like with the bass. And this bass is honestly like the instrumental hook of the song. Like, this is really what carries this.
I'm so tired, I'm so stressed out, I'm not motivated. All this money and attention feels so overrated. Every day it's like I wake up just to make a.
But I was like, that bass is cool, but it's a little boring. So I wanted to put some of these pitch bends in, and I wanted to do it a little bit differently than normal. So I wanted to have them on a separate track. That way I could have full control over them, and I could kind of automate them without it getting in the way of this. Just because as everything was overlaying, it started to get really kind of funky with automation, and I just decided it would be easiest if I just had these pitches on a whole separate track. So now we have this.
I'm so tired, I'm so stressed out, I'm not motivated. All this money and attention feels so overrated. Every day it's like I wake up just to make a couple dollars, sign some papers, make some records, talk with strangers. Ooh, all the
And at this point, I was like, I have the basis of the production, but now it's time to start adding some depth to it. So I added these little percussion hits, and you'll see that they kind of alter on every other snare hit. So you'll see it'll be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and it kind of alternates. And these are just super, super reverbed out. I didn't even have to process them with anything. This is just how they were printed.
I'm so tired, I'm so stressed out, I'm not motivated. All this money and it.
Let me show you. So that's where I was like, okay, this is really, really starting to have some depth. And I was like, I need one more synth. So I added this little pad underneath that's just doing a little bit of something, something. And that's just with easy keys on the mellow dream setting. And then let's see if we did any post-processing. We just have a little bit of a delay right here. And the reason I wanted that pad is because to me that added a little bit of sustain behind it and kind of gave it a little bit of ambience. So once we have that vocal and that 808 back in, now we've got, you know.
I'm so tired, I'm so stressed out, I'm not motivated. All this money and attention feels so overrated.
You can tell the difference that these little atmospheric elements start to make. So I use them very subtly. These are things that I like to call ear candy, where you can't really hear them in the mix, but without them, the mix starts to feel a little empty. It starts to feel a little dry. They're really, really easy to add and tuck way under to just kind of have a little bit of space and of movement. The next thing that we have is gonna be like this hi-hat loop, and this is actually just from Splice. I didn't do anything to change it. It was actually at the tempo of my song, so I didn't even have to change the tempo of it.
I'm so tired, I'm so stressed out, I'm not motivated. All this money and attention feels so overrated. Every day it's like I wake up just to make a couple dollars, sign some papers, make some records, talk with strangers. Ooh, all the glitters isn't gold.
So that's pretty much it for now. Then we have this little spacey pluck coming in, and this is kind of just acting as an accent hit on every little bar. Let me solo that out by itself so you can hear it. And I gave the preset for that in the pack as well. And that's just at the beginning of the bar. What that's doing is basically acting as kind of like a little bit of a down hit. Because I didn't want any kind of like big crash or splash or anything like that. But I did want a little bit of impact to come in with that 808 and that kick, just because it comes in so heavy. So we've got...
I'm so tired, I'm so stressed out, I'm not motivated. All this money and attention feels so overrated.
And then we started adding some of these other things. So like I've got these low vocals under here, and I've got, let's see, a reverse vocal. So let's go ahead and add the low vocals and the reverse vocals in.
I'm so tired, I'm so stressed out, I'm not motivated. All this money and attention.
And let's go over what we're doing with the low vocals. So the low vocals are basically the same chain as my main vocal. It's just tuned down 1 octave in Auto-Tune Pro, split with a doubler like I usually do, and then here's what it sounds like.
I wake up just to make a couple dollars, sign some papers, make some records, talk with strangers. Ooh, all the glitters is...
Then we have these little reverse vocals right here, which are just the first little syllable, put on a channel with some reverb, print that and reverse it. I think we've done some videos on that on the channel. If not, there's like a million things on how to reverse a vocal depending on what DAW you're in. You really just want to print one syllable with a really, really long reverb and then go in and reverse that, and then you're pretty much done. Then I wanted to add some ad-libs. So this is where we have like the ooh yeah in the beginning, and then we had just like some like fillers. So you'll see.
I'm so tired, I'm so stressed out, I'm not motivated. All this money and attention feels so overrated. Every day it's like I wake up just to make a...
And you can tell that now that we've got that, that's adding a lot of that space in the back end. Because without it, it just sounds a little bit empty.
All this money and attention feels so overrated.
And to me, it just felt a little bit unfinished. So I just wanted to add these ad-libs, and the chain for this is just basically my entire chain. I just added doubler right before I added like the DS and all the rest of the stuff. And then I just added a delay, 1/4 ping pong, pretty wet, and then a reverb, super, super wet. And then just filtered it out quite a bit, you know, just low passing and high passing. So here's what it sounds like.
Wake up just to make a couple dollars, sign some papers, make some records, talk with strangers. Ooh, all the glitters isn't gold, I'm losing control. Nothing is making me whole. All the drama and the stress, my life is a mess. The pressure is crushing my chest.
So now we're starting to get a full production. So now I think let's go ahead and let's start adding the rest of the stuff in, because it's going to start coming in the hook. And you'll see that overall it remains a pretty minimal production throughout. So let's go ahead and look. There's a couple more things in this verse that I want to highlight, and that is in the beginning, this notification intro was just done with our Foley pack, and it's got like phone rings, text clicking, notifications, all kinds of stuff.
Your call has been forwarded to an...
So I just mix that with this crowd that I found from Splice. Mixed with this little chit chat loop. Because the whole point of the song is just about being really busy, really overwhelmed, your phone won't stop ringing, just everything around you is kind of spiraling. So I wanted to kind of start the song off with all of those different like notification tones, text tones, keyboard sounds, and it sounds overwhelming. And so that kind of starts the song out, and then there's this little camera shutter click right here, and there's a phone ring right here. So let's take a listen.
And attention feels so overrated. Every day's attention feels so. Every day it's like
and I timed it to the song, so now it acts as like a little percussive element, and it's kind of just like, you know, the camera clicks for attention. Then we've got a little phone ring right here.
talk with strangers. Ooh, all the glitters isn't gold. I'm losing control. Nothing.
So I used a couple little Foley things like that throughout, just to kind of help drive that atmosphere of like, okay, this is a song about being busy, overwhelmed with social media, with emails, texting, all that kind of stuff. And we kind of carry that through with some of those atmospheric sounds. So let's go ahead and talk about the drums going into this hook. There are a couple things that we add. We add this little keyboard loop right here. And that keyboard loop is just in our Foley pack. It's one of our loops that we put in there. Then we added this extra hi-hat loop that kind of counteracts with the one that we've got going. And for this one, I wanted it in the background. I just wanted it to kind of add a little bit of backbeat. So I have it auto panning, and then I also just went ahead and filtered it out because I just wanted it to have like that telephone effect. So because with the original loop, it just felt like too much to have both of those over top of each other. And then I needed some kind of like crash down impact. And I wanted kind of an open hat, and I just found this really, really perfect loop that had that. So that's really all that's going on with the drums and the hook. And then all of this is the same. We added this extra lead that's in the hook though. And this is like the first other melodic kind of element that we have in the whole song. And that's just the Dusty Mansions setting on hybrid keys from Native Instruments. And then I went ahead and added halftime, and I cranked that down to like 50%. So now you've got a little bit of counter melody with that, which is really, really nice. And then I just added a little bit of extra reverb on the end. And to me, that just added one more little element that kind of helped it feel like a hook instead of like the verses. Then I just layered that up with this. Infinite Whore from the same Hybrid Keys pack, and then just delay 1/4 ping pong, pretty dry actually though, and then a reverb, pretty wet. So here's what it sounds like with nothing on it, and then with some of the post processing, and then I just scooped some lows out. So now all together we've got this with the hook, and then let's see.
Pray to find some peace of mind. Peace of mind, man, I gotta find some peace of mind. Peace of mind, I just gotta find some peace of mind. Some peace of mind, and I hope I find some peace of mind.
Then we've just got this little bass right here, and it's the same bass patch. I just went ahead and sustained all the notes out, so now it doesn't cut on the snare drums. And sustaining that bass was a really nice way to also make it feel like a hook, because we add a little bit of life, a little bit of sustain. It's a little bit different than the verses. So it's all of the same elements, just doing something a little bit different. And now that the vocal melody has changed completely, everything feels kind of new. So going into it,
Everything I ever fucking wanted, but I pray to find some peace of mind. Peace of mind, man, I gotta find some peace of mind. Peace of mind, I just gotta find some peace of mind. Some peace of mind, and I hope I find some peace of mind. Some peace of mind, I wake up.
now let's take a look at the couple last things that we have going on in this hook. The vocals felt really dry in the hook compared to everywhere else, and I didn't want to necessarily mess with the master reverb because I liked it for the rest of the song. So what I did was I just duplicated that vocal track on a stereo track. Same exact thing, and then I added this really, really massive, like 4.5 second reverb, and then filtered it out. So now we've got this layered over top.
I gotta find some peace of mind. Peace of mind, I just gotta find some peace of mind. Some peace of mind, and I hope I find some peace of mind. Some peace of mind, I wake up, hear repeat.
And then on that same ad-lib track, I just, instead of doing ad-libs in the hook, decided to go with kind of like a falsetto melody.
I just gotta find some peace of mind. Some peace of mind, and I hope I find some peace of mind. Some peace of mind, I wake up, hit.
Then the last thing is we just have these little risers and hits.
Everything I ever fucking wanted, but I pray to find some peace of mind. Peace of mind, man, I gotta find some peace of mind. Peace of mind, I just gotta find some peace of mind. Some peace of mind.
And that's it for the hooks and for the verses. So the second verse is actually the same as the first verse, but there's a couple little start and stop elements. So we'll go over those, and then we'll talk about the bridge, and then the song is done. So let's go ahead. So you'll see immediately we have this little start stop pause.
I find some peace of mind, some peace of mind. I wake up, hit repeat, same old shit like every week. Got too many people sending messages to go to sleep. I'm too deep.
And you'll see that I physically like cut out the synth, so there's no reverb overlay. Because I didn't want any of that carryover. So really all we've got going for this is just a double hit on this kick and then a double hit on this 808.
I wake up, hit repeat, same old shit like every week. Got too many people sending messages.
And that's pretty much it. Then we have the snares, and then everything comes back in. Adding little elements like that where you don't have to necessarily add anything to the production, you're just really working with dynamics, is a really, really good way to keep your track count pretty low, and then just introduce a little bit of you know, energy. So like, I love this little turnaround into the second verse because it's just super, super nice. It seems seamless to me.
Peace of mind, some peace of mind. I wake up, hit repeat, same old shit like every week. Got too many people sending messages.
And I pulled the hi-hats and the snares in a little earlier than the synths just to kind of ease you in. Then when everything comes in, it feels super fulfilling. So that's all that's really going through that. Ad-libs, nothing has changed. There was just a little reverse into that.
Like every week, got too many.
That would be like ear candy. Then we have this little
I'm
part.
too deep, special 10. All my walls are caving in, but I swear to God I'm okay. At least I really hope I am. Did I lose touch with reality from chase?
So this is a good example of how I was saying I will switch the melody, so I don't necessarily have to switch much on the production. So the production was staying the same, chords were staying the same, but since I did that, I went from that da-da-da, da-da-da, to then going, can I lose touch with reality from... That was just a nice little swap up, so it doesn't start feeling really repetitive and stale. And then this was also a really, really, really good way to tie in some kind of repetition and, again, of like that start-stop little beat that pumps everybody up.
Did I lose touch with reality from chasing shit that doesn't mean a goddamn thing? Trade my happiness for salary.
So you'll see that that's pretty much the same thing we did. We just cut out the actual synth. And then I also went ahead and drove down the reverb and the delay on these vocals.
That doesn't mean a goddamn thing.
And it's really just the kick and this bass again. And then I just have this little stutter vocal. This is basically just my main vocal tuned down an octave. And then you'll see the camera little thing comes back in here.
Goddamn thing. Trade my happiness for salary, and now I'm hanging on by a goddamn string.
Brought the phone ring back in there, so we have a little bit of parallel structure to the first verse, even though we've completely changed the melody. Now we're going back into the pre-chorus and then into the chorus.
All the glitters isn't gold, I'm losing control. Nothing is making me whole. All the drama in the...
And even this doesn't feel repetitive because we did so many start-stop things to mean a goddamn thing with the goddamn... Like, all of those things now create a little bit of extra sense of sustain, which we're going to even improve on in this hook. So we've got a little bit more sustain coming in this pre-chorus, and then a little bit more sustain coming in the hook, where it feels really, really nice, and it has a little bit of a payoff.
All the glitters isn't gold, I'm losing control. Nothing is making me whole. All the drama and the stress, my life is a mess. The pressure is crushing my chest. I'm exhausted.
Then we're just back into the hook.
Some peace of mind, and I gotta find.
Now we're going into the bridge. So this is the first part where we don't really have 808s. I went with this bass pad instead. And you can see that I changed it up. Instead of being so fast, boom, 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 boom. Now these notes are sustaining, so we're just kind of holding out that C sharp, and then that D sharp, and then that F. So you'll see that now it's adding a little bit of length to everything, and it feels like a bridge to me. We brought in all those like intro kind of notification crowd noises. We have this like little orchestral impact. And then let's see, what else? The bridge lead is basically just the same thing, just Dusty Mansions, but I filtered it out quite a bit more. So now we've got... Just gave it a little bit of a creepier kind of bridge vibe. So here's what it sounds like with the vocals.
Some peace of mind. Think I'm losing time, I'm losing sight. Got too caught up living in the grind, and I was blind. Put my family and friends aside, and it ain't right. But I hope I find some peace of mind, some peace of mind, yeah. All the glitters isn't gone, I'm losing control. Nothing is all the drama and the stress, my life.
So let's talk about this one vocal, then I'll show you what I did on the last hook, then we are done. So on this vocal, there is a lot. There is auto-tune, like my normal chain. Then I've got decapitator on, just kind of crushing it. I've got it filtered out. And then I've got the studio chorus that is kind of acting, and this tremolo that's kind of acting. So let me go ahead and show you all of the automation that we're doing on this. So you'll see that the decapitator mix will start to come down as the filter is starting to open up. And then in the meantime, we've also got this filter opening up. Then we've got this chorus coming in, so we're starting to get more of a chorus effect as all the distortion effect is coming down. Then we start to have this tremolo effect come in. So you'll just kind of listen as you're watching this.
All the glitters isn't gold, I'm losing control. Nothing is making me whole. All the drama and the stress, my life is a mess. The pressure is crushing my chest. I'm exhausted and I don't know what to say, cause I got everything I ever fucking wanted, but I pray to find some.
And you can really, really hear what's going on. So as that filter is opening up and as that distortion is coming down, we're basically swapping that effect for that chorusy kind of tremoloed, choppy effect. So it's really cool, and it creates this really, really, really nice transition into the final chorus.
All the glitters isn't gold, I'm losing control. Nothing is making me whole. All the drama and the stress, my life is a mess. The pressure is crushing my chest. I'm exhausted and I don't know what to say, cause I got everything I ever fucking wanted, but I pray to find some peace of mind.
So you can see as the mix on this goes down, the mix on this goes up, and the mix on this goes up, and then this is also opening up as all of that is happening. So
I don't know what to say, cause I got everything I ever fucking wanted, but I pray to find some peace of mind. Peace of mind, and I gotta.
Then we're into the final hook where it's just the same stuff, and I actually ended up tying in that bridge to kind of be a final post hook.
Think I'm losing time, I'm losing sight. Got too caught up living in the grind, and I was blind. Put my family and friends aside, and it ain't right, but I hope I find some peace of mind. Some peace of mind, yeah.
Brought in the same effects again for all of the outro stuff.
Your call has been forwarded to an automated voice messaging system.
It chopped it because I had opened it, but that actually...
Your call has been forwarded to an automated voice messaging system.
And that's all she wrote. That's the full production from start to finish. If there's anything that you want to see me dive into more detail with, definitely just leave a comment below and we can try to do a full video on any one element that you want to see. Also, if you like the song, like I said, it will be out tomorrow, so please support. Much appreciated. And go ahead and download all the stems, samples, and presets that we did for this song because they are 100% free. Let us know what content you guys want to see next time. We are always looking for ideas. And until then, we will see you. Much love, make pop music. Peace out.
All the glitters isn't gold, I'm losing control. Nothing is making me whole. All the drama and the stress, my life is a mess. The pressure is crushing my chest. I'm exhausted and I don't know what to say, cause I got everything I ever fucking wanted, but I pray to find some peace of mind. Peace of mind, and I gotta find some peace of mind. Peace of